There I was, 15 years old in the 10th grade at Plymouth High School in Plymouth, North Carolina. Plymouth is a very small rural town where everyone knows everyone else. Well, my friend, and we'll call him Larry, came up to me and confided in me that he liked Mike. Now, that is not something that you would share just openly with anyone. I did say Plymouth. I did say rural town. And this was in the 1980s. Yeah, you got it. So here was Larry telling me this personal secret that he had. And he wanted some advice about how he needed to navigate his friendship with this person that he liked, that of course was not acceptable in society during this time. At first, I was wowed because he trusted me with his secret. And then I started to think, I need to protect him. I need to protect his story. I need to protect his heart. And fast forward 30 years later, I'm in the grocery store, running in to get some last minute items. And I run into my friend, and we'll call her Monica. And we're chit-chatting for a while, and then she stops me and says, Robin, I need some advice. You have a son, right? And of course, yeah, I do have a son. And she shared with me some things that her son was experiencing. And I don't think I told you this, but both of our sons are very handsome. So they were having some girl problems. And she needed to know, what can I do as a mom to an adult child? Well, my son is 38, and her son is just going into young adulthood. So while I have gone through all of the thrills and trills of, raising a son and then supporting an adult child, she's just beginning to experience it. We spoke, and when we left the grocery store, I realized, wow, she needed me to listen to her. And everyone needs someone to listen to them, to really hear them, and to let them know that there's a light shining around them. That light is my superpower. There I was, standing in the middle of my kitchen across from my father, when I had to utter these words, I'm pregnant. That was the first time I saw my daddy cry. There was pain, there was disappointment, and for me, there was shame. Here I was, the color guard captain, SGA representative, drama club secretary, 16 years old, and pregnant. I had to think about how my life was going to drastically change, and it did. I could no longer just jump up and go when I wanted to. I even had to step down from being the color guard captain. Even though there was disappointment, I was still able to look at the opportunities awarded me. There was a challenge to have to navigate my life differently, but I went on to graduate from high school. I graduated from college and was able to have a successful teaching career and, of course, successful coaching business. I remember that the challenges make you stronger. And my challenge of having to raise a son as a teen mom has pushed me to look at opportunities instead of looking at roadblocks. No matter what happens, at what age, you can always move forward. And basically, that is how I overcome that one choice that I made in my young life. On March 4th, 2019, sitting across from my doctor, I heard the most devastating news that any woman could hear. My doctor looked at me and said, "You have breast cancer." I hear this devastating news, and my first thought was, oh my goodness, what am I going to do about work? Now, for a person to hear that they have the big C, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth is something about work, I realized that my priorities were not in order. Well, once I got my priorities in order, I realized, ooh, I have to do something. And that something that I had to do was gather my village around me. I have always been a very independent person, but I knew that I was going to need support during my cancer treatment and my healing. The lesson for me was that I cannot do everything alone. I have to rely on others to be there for me. And to my surprise, my village was there with open arms, ready to support me and to give me what I needed to continue to heal, to live, and to keep thriving. So for this, I am forever grateful. And that's what it is. If I could have a conversation with my 21-year-old self, what would I say? I had the opportunity to represent the teachers union on the Maryland State Commission for the School to Prison Pipeline and Restorative Practices. Now, here I was, small town girl, being asked to represent thousands of teachers at the Maryland State Capitol. So as I am going into the room, I realized, wow, I'm in the room with doctors, professors, congressmen, all of the big wigs in the Maryland State Department. And as I'm walking to my seat, I start to think, okay, Robin, walk like this, talk like this, make sure you act like this. I started to perform. And when you're performing, your voice is stifled. One day, someone made a comment that was totally incorrect about restorative justice. And that day, I found my voice. I spoke up regardless of what the outcome was going to be. But I made sure my voice was heard. And when I did that, boom, authenticity came out. As a result of me deciding to just trust and step out as who I am, Maryland instated a law that asks all public schools to implement restorative practices. I tell you this story because at 21, I would have told myself, remember who you are, be authentic, and capitalize on your gift, regardless of what room you're in and regardless of who's in that room. Because you have a story to tell, and your voice is your story. Washington Street Elementary School, 6th grade. There I was, sitting on the floor doing my work. The teacher came in and said, Robin, why are you sitting on the floor? You don't see anyone else sitting on the floor. And my quick response was, they can sit on the floor if they want to. Well, she went and got that phone book, walked out of the room, and I knew what that meant, phone call home. And that was when the shift happened. The shift from me being who I am to who they wanted me to be. I started performing performing for my parents, my teachers, eventually society. As I continued to matriculate through grade school, I fell further and further back into the shadows where I was not operating from my true self. It was like my head was separated from my heart and I was just performing. The problem that I see today is that many people are performing. They are doing what their parents want them to do, what society wants them to do, what social media followers want them to do, and they're not operating from their core self. I want to use my gift of restorative coaching to help people to be empowered, to step out of the shadows and be their true selves, to operate from their core. I want to be the one that's going to support them as they step into their bravery, move into their authentic selves, and give the gift that they have to the world without having to perform. Why do people hire me and want to work with my company? This brings to mind the story of Jacob. I was doing restorative coaching with a group, and Jacob speaks up because he was having some issues with what he was going to do with his family around Thanksgiving. And he was asking me for some advice, and I started asking him questions to allow him to dig a little deeper around where that fear was coming from with this important holiday coming up. We continued to converse, and he eventually said, "Wow, that helps." He emailed me later on to say that that was one of the best Thanksgivings he had ever had. There are a lot of Jacobs in the world. And just like Jacob, people want someone who is credible, someone who has their best interest at heart, knowing that they're not doing it for the money, they're really doing it to see the transformation in either an individual's life or an organization. And they do it because they want someone who is trustworthy. It is very important to have someone allow you to dig deep inside to find your own answers because the answers are within. And I'm just a vessel that creates the space where people feel powerful enough to dig deep and bring out the answers. And that's why I believe people hire me. This experience has been mind-blowing for me. The patience, the individual attention, the detail, the encouragement has been what I have received throughout this whole process. And I'm leaving here feeling alive. I'm leaving here feeling empowered. I'm leaving here feeling like I can take on the world, which of course is what I'm going to do. But I really enjoyed this series of the making of an entrepreneur. And this is something that I would encourage anyone to take advantage of because it is an opportunity of a lifetime. And I'm so glad that I said yes to this experience.